episode 9. This week we're doing it a little different, a little cuisine.
Are we on? We're good or what?
The mic we're live and we're still setting it. So we have a live mic.
So we have music going on while we're...
We have a live mic right now, which means if you tell your secrets to the world, they'll hear them right now.
I'm an open book.
Apparently. Yes. Now you can start a watch party, my friend. Join us. Okay, there's one person on our live, and that would be myself. We just need our image. Copy link. This week, you guys are tuning into our audio. We have something special for you this weekend. Here is our guest, Mr. Adewumi. If you can have a seat over here. Today we have your favorite cocktail in case things get a little heated. And actually you're going to sit here. Your brother's going to join us here. There's a little exercise today. So you're stretching for your beverage choice. And great.
Get that mic closer to you.
This mic is going here.
That's your mic.
Your mic toward you. That way you don't have to. We are missing one glass. Here you go. What glass?
It's man first.
You want to come on? Come on. I can't do that. There you go.
So once again, folks, if this is the first time that you're joining us, we are shooting from Amarachi in trendy Brooklyn.
MJ, make sure you say hello on your way out, MJ.
Hello. And so we get the excitement of having a business in Brooklyn, in the heart of trendy Brooklyn, that is in operation as we speak. So you'll hear the authentic sounds of dishes breaking,
ice cracking,
people being served their delicious drinks and food and everything that comes with running a successful business.
While there's a live camera and a hot
While
mic.
there's a camera going.
Yes. So this is excellent. And feel free to like, comment, and share. We have an exciting show planned today. My dad is actually texting me saying I did not get the link. So I'm going to send it via email now. And of course, I know you're wondering, where is Bob? I think we will do. No, don't say that. My mother fighting. I grew up in the city, so my mother raised my brother and myself until we were kind of, old enough. I would say old enough to do it ourselves.
So she spoiled you. I'm just trying to figure out who spoiled you.
Yeah. Are you listening, Mom? Yeah. So, no, but and then my mom was fortunate enough. For me, I can't read one prince or one king. My mother had two, so my mom's remarried. So, when I was a young adult, my mother met my stepfather. And everybody's living happily ever after.
Sam, how are you? I'm great. Good. So what are we waiting for?
No, we're actually going to go ahead and start. And for those of you, let me give you the official welcome. Welcome to Journeys from Lagos to Brooklyn. I'm one of your hosts, Donnatella C. You are familiar with Peter Gordon. And today's very charming and handsome guest is Sam Adewumi.
Welcome, Sam.
We're excited to have you here. And so what we try to do in the beginning is to get people a little familiar with who you are, all the greatness that you represent, and setting expectations all the way up here. So let's start with that. Who are you, Sam?
You know what? The easiest way to explain who I am, I am a fourth child of two.
And I don't know if they heard you. He said chief. You did say chief, right? Okay.
Both parents were chiefs. Both parents were doers in the community. Both parents were people who cared about children, cared about life. And we're instructed and helping so many people. So we grew up with that experience. And when I think about everything that I've done, even one of my parents did.
Awesome. So you're keeping the legacy going. And I think it's important. We are in the heart of Brooklyn. I don't know too many chiefs that are here in Brooklyn, and you may want to kind of let our guests, because some people may be joining for the first time, to know where you're from and where you're representing, I guess.
Okay, so for those who don't know, I was born in Nigeria. My father is Yoruba. My mother was Igbo. We grew up on the Yoruba side, on the father's side. But we had experience on both sides.
Okay.
Are those different races? Is it religion? Is it?
Those are different nations.
Okay.
Right. So you have the Yoruba nation, which has a long history. Yoruba people were, if you know about the Ifa divination cycle, the spiritual system. They created that. That was given to them by the ancestors. People also have their own very special tradition. Each, so these are two nations. These are not tribes. These are nations. Right? And we don't use there's no word for tribe in our language. Right. So that's a good word that was brought on to denigrate people short. So I use nations because that's what they were. Civilizations, the growth of civilization got lasted for hundreds, thousands of years, and did many deaths in that time frame. And so to our family, my grandfather was one of the founders of, or great grandfather was one of the founders of the town that we come from.
Really?
Yeah. So so that history is part of who we are, as a family, and who we are, as people as well.
So, given your background, because it sounds like, unlike unfortunately some people that I'm familiar with, you had a very strong family upbringing in terms of setting standards and teaching you the proper way to.
No, our parents are very, 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 very definitive in their beliefs, right? And they shared that with us in many ways, either through conversations, either through scoldings, either through other types of discipline. But we got it, and also through example. Right? And I think that's really the biggest part of it, through the example of who they were and how they moved and what they did. Right. So yeah, we definitely had a sense of purpose. And if you know anything about my family, we are very, very close.
I do.
There was a time it was like 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and every time we would go home, the 4 brothers would go home and
And if you know anything about us, we're pretty large men. And my mom was this little tiny 5'2" lady, and here you have these like giant men walking around, towering, and they're all surrounding this little woman, and it was just the most beautiful thing because she herself was a little fire plug, like 5'2". She you don't mess with her. Did not want to mess with her.
Well, to say who Sam is, Sam and I went to the same high school, okay? And if you don't know, if you're not in the New York area, Brooklyn Tech is a school where only the brightest of the brightest go. And so we were still, I don't know how they do it today, but we were still doing alphabetical order. So his last name was A, and so he would be in the first row ahead of me, and most of the times being G, I would be next in the row next to him, a couple seats behind him. He doesn't know this because of
I was always in that first.
And Sam was on, and we had some pretty hard classes together. Math and trigonometry, physics, and Sam was on the football team. You can see the type of person he was because he was swole. For his age, like he was cut, and so that was discipline. And when we would get our test backs, I would get a bird's eye view of Sam's grades. And I mean, like, I wasn't a great student, and Sam would be in the daily news, right, for how many yards he had on Sunday or so the weekend, right? I was doing all these things, and then I look over at his grades and we get a test back, and it was consistently in the high 90s. Now I'm looking at my 72, and I'm like, yo, give thanks, right? And I'm looking at it, and consistently, he just gets his grade, and he looks at it, and he had this quiet strength about him. And as I get older, I admired it then, but as you get older, it had to be, he had to be the beneficiary of some real strong parents. And then as I get to meet his brothers, I mean, that was proof. So I heard all that you were doing and came back and found out what your education was and what you do. It was no surprise to me. So why don't you give us a little of that and let us know what you're up to these days?
What I'm up to these days. Well, specifically two main things right now in terms of the educational piece. I still work within the DOE as a teacher, and I had the pleasure of working at my old school,
Where you actually attended?
which I actually attended. So I love the ability to interact with the new generation of students, and just be a part of the experience, right? And share. Even each year, I feel more comfortable sharing my life with them, because it is. Even today I was telling them I teach computer science, and was talking about different algorithms and things like that, and I shared an algorithm that I used to have with my daughter, and so I mean, one of many, and nothing major or crazy, but just being able to share that and guide them through is amazing. If there was football during this season, I probably would be leaving the field right now because I actually, the head coach of the football team, at that school as well. And so I enjoy being there. I enjoy that aspect of things. I also enjoy what I do on the side with education. We have a program that started initially as a test prep program for students who wanted to get into the specialized high school. It's called CAS Prep.
That's right.
But we've expanded, because we realized that our students academic support, of course, more than just the 7th grade level, more than just test prep, but from early childhood, from 1st grade, 2nd grade. And so when we were prior to COVID, we had our program served 2nd graders up to 9th graders.
2nd to 9th. And how long has your program been established or been running?
This is year 7 now.
7 years.
Yeah, this is
And
year seven.
I'm pretending not to know as much about you as I do, because I know that your program's been featured on the BBC as well.
Yes.
I was very impressed when that happened.
I mean, we've had different features over the years.
Mhm.
BBC, Amsterdam News has been something, a place that we've been on a few times. Some other media outlets. Last year we were in USA Today as part of an article taking a look at New York City's gifted and talented schools and specialized high schools. And again, the companies or the peoples that service the children and wanted access to those schools.
So I don't mean to cut you, Sam, but I want folks to understand this, right? There are 3 top specialized high schools in New York City: Bronx High School of Science, Stuyvesant, and Brooklyn Tech, the school that myself and the Adewumi brothers graduated from.
So that was the original 3.
That was the original 3.
Right. And so
what is it now?
In about a few years ago, they added 5 more. So there's now a specialized high school in each borough.
Okay.
Right. And though each of them is associated with a college in that borough, but their how should I say, their population is small compared to any one of
those
3.
top 3.
Right. So the big 3, when you say specialized high schools, it's still really the big 3 in terms of numbers.
Absolutely.
Of students. And then you have maybe 500 over there, and 400 here, and 800 there. But then you get to the big 3, and you're looking at 3,000, 4,000, 6,000.
Which, if you ask me, those are the real deal. Now,
It's right. I mean, the big 3 is really it. I mean, but those schools are they're doing really good work. They're doing really good work. They have, really good students, really good administrators. So again, they're equitable. It's just, again, when you think about it, the big 3 has like maybe an 80-year head start. Right.
you have the history, you have the legacy.
They have the history, they have the legacy, they have the alumni support, the alumni foundation. So those things end up impacting the schools in different ways.
So what Sam found was, and what we had noticed even back then, probably as we were attending, was that the minority, the Black and brown student body, has been severely misrepresented, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at why, it starts from early childhood education and moves all the way up. Mm-hmm. Our schools in our neighborhoods are not preparing these kids to properly pass the exam to enter these top schools.
Right.
And even some schools, they don't even let you know. If my uncle didn't go to Brooklyn Tech and I was so enamored with his T-square and the toys he came home with, and he was on the track team and everything, in my school, if I did not know about that and ask about it, they would have never told me that the test was being given when it was being given.
Okay, right.
And so what Sam does, I think, and he'll talk more about it, is give our kids in the inner city a chance to get into the schools. Now, why is it important that these kids get into the schools? Because I think 98, 99% of the children that graduate from these schools go on to college.
Absolutely.
And, nobody even comes close to that. And so if we don't have a respectable, representation, things kind of stay the same way.
Right.
So,
In terms of later being able to
in terms of
contribute
later and how
to
we
the
contribute and how we build these kids' lives.
Right. I mean, there's some direct reasons why things are the way they are currently. When we went to the school, we were beneficiaries of a system that had G&T, which means gifted and talented schools, in every, I would dare say, in every school. Right. And so even in the what you could imagine is the most rundown neighborhoods, right, there was still a G&T program in the school, because there was this realization that regardless of the neighborhood, you still have talented children in those schools, right? And I'm not going to say the G&T school concept was the most ideal concept, because I'll say off the back that if you were in 801 and 802 and 803, you had the best teachers, you had access to resources. If you were in 808, 9, and 10, You had the new teachers who were just trying to figure stuff out. You had the, so there were some inequities in that system. So I'm going to say that off the bat because I don't want anyone to feel like, I feel like that was the best way to run education, right? There are other models of education that could work where that concept of would still be viable, but you're not throwing away 808, 809, 8010, right? And that to me, that was the problem with the system back then, right? You basically were putting those kids to the side, and that's not wrong because every child is G and T, right? And that's where I am now. Like every child has a gift, right? And so part of what schools need to do is identify the gifts of those children that come in front of them, right? Absolutely. So it may not necessarily be that this child's gift is math. It may not be that this child's gift is reading. It could be it could be coding. It could be, graphic design. It could be, poetry and writing.
I don't think the public school system is equipped or has been encouraged to identify children that learn differently and have certain skills and talents if they're from a certain neighborhood. Would that be fair to say?
I would say that's probably a fair assessment, because for a lot of different factors, right? And I'll we can get into some of the real issues that schools are dealing with that prevent them from doing this. That to me would speak to initiating strategies to mitigate that, right? And I think some of that is happening now, but it's like, where was some of these
programs back in the day?
Back in the day, because it's not like the research is new, right? It's not like the knowledge is new. It's not like we just found out about post-traumatic stress disorder affecting children, right? Like that's been there, right? So why were we such a high punishment-based culture in our schools, right? Why is that what we went to when we can identify that there's a reason why these things are happening? There's a reason why children are, quote, acting out in schools, right? But yet we decide to deal with it through punishment as opposed to remediation, as opposed to therapy, so those types. So that's a big part of it. But just getting back to the specialized high school story, those systems that we had in place back then no longer exist within the Black community, right? So, like, if you were to go across New York City right now, you may not find, you probably would not find 5 G&T programs in the community in any of in combined Black and Hispanic communities of New York City.
Really?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. And so, and there's reasons for that. But those schools were pipelines to the specialized high schools. If you remove the pipeline, what's going to happen? Right? I mean, it's just one to two. Now there have been, people are, I know, the mayor, the chancellor are looking to eradicate the test.
Are they looking to make it more, accessible for our Black and brown students, or do they want to do away with it?
The premise of eradicating the test is that we want to, they want to create a more representative student population for the city, right? How does that actually happen? I'm not sure. Some of the strategies that were proposed about 2 or 3 years ago, the research didn't support them as being able to do that, right? And so,
I mean, isn't it just as simple as a curve for certain students? Like if you miss it between 5, 10 points, certain considerations can be given, maybe even summer school. I mean, I don't think it's rocket
that's
science.
a discovery program.
Okay.
And so the mayor was able to impact the discovery program and pull more seats for students who fit exactly that criteria. If you miss it by a few points, you now attend summer school. I actually had one of the students in my program who went through that process, attended summer school, did well, and they're in, and so that can help a little bit. But again, that impacts, I think discovery, I can't tell you numbers, but again, you're looking at maybe 3,500 seats per year Okay, so if discovery impacts 500, you still got the other 3,000 to think about what's going on there. And a lot of people point to test prep. Test prep is there, but it really is, being a test prep person myself. And I try to tell parents as much as possible. It really is about what does your child walk into the door with when they come see us, right? If your child has been exposed to a rigorous program that includes algebra, that includes higher level, reading in terms of literature, that includes reading things like, Mark Twain and those type of, those in that era, so that they understand the old school language. They're exposed to reading information dense material.
Yeah, because you might be smart enough to pass that test, but if you're not cut to be a student of Brooklyn Tech like you can fake it for like 2 days in that school, and then you're done. So that
or you're smart enough to make it, but your entry point into the process was too late. Right. So you grasp this quickly, you get it, you're a processor, and you climb the ladder, but you started in June, right? And the test is in November or October. So you have 4, 5, 6 months to try to go from what your school exposed you to what the test is requiring from you, right? That's a hard, steep climb. Right. So again, it still goes back to, if your school has exposed you to this, and the test is here, this is what your climb is. Your school is here. And the unfortunate part, I will say, is that most parents have no clue how well their schools are preparing their children for the next level, right? And some of that is on us, and some of that is on the schools, right? So I can't tell you how many times I've had a parent say, my child is great in math. Okay, so now we test them. And the child gets maybe out of 57, he's at 15. Wow. Right? This is a child who has a 90-something average in his school. So is his school preparing him for the next level? Is his 90 average based on material that requires critical thinking? Or is his 90 average based on resuscitation of what the teacher said? And once you leave the framework of that, there's nothing there for that child to fall back on, right? So there's a lot to it, there's a lot to it.
Not to interject, but I'm sorry for being late. But I just kind of wanted to ask some pointed questions as an educator in Brooklyn. Where are we at with the school system right now? Public schools, you're educator at Brooklyn Tech. Is Brooklyn Tech open right now? Are kids allowed to come in? Let's just get all the bullet points out.
Well, I mean, I'm not here representing.
No, just conversation. Just conversation. Just conversation. Not one again, right? Okay. Just you.
But what I know.
Yes, what you know.
What's in the paper.
Yes. Bring us up to speed.
I'll bring you up to speed. All schools are currently closed for in-person instruction.
All public schools.
All public schools are closed for in-person instruction.
Okay.
There is a sequence of openings that was put out maybe about last week in terms of how they would roll out openings of schools. Even I heard the governor today talking about that process of everyone just being really careful as they begin to go back. So I think the elementary, the pre-K to K students may be there now. And then after that, the elementary school students will go in, and then middle school students and high school students. So it's like a phased rollout where I guess at each level, there's this need to monitor, right? And make sure that there's no outbreaks, right? And so if there's no outbreaks, that finally the large community of high schoolers that travel all over the city to get to school will finally be, I guess, the last ones to go now.
How do you feel about students going back to school this semester?
I mean, here's the thing. I think, we may be getting a little bit comfortable around this issue of the pandemic. I know that the numbers have decreased. I want to keep them that way personally, knowing what we went through, it frightens me to know that people are going to be leaving their houses into the trains, into buses. Kids will be leaving their houses into trains and buses. That frightens me. I think I like the rollout. At least we have that. Maybe we could even extend it. I think home or the online instruction this time around is a lot better. It's a lot better than what happened in March, where it was just like we were thrown into this. Now people are using Zoom, people are using Google Meets, people are using.
I found that the level of given the level of technology that we had available to when this thing happened, I find that the public school systems were ill prepared to kind of.
Well, that's because in my opinion, I don't think the public school system has the accessibility or the instruction for the technology that's available for the regular world.
Really?
I as a consultant, I've worked with some of the New York City public schools before, and I would say not. To me, having worked professionally, I would think it would be easy to go to a model like the what's the online school from something K, like kindergarten. 10 to K or 12 to K. K to 12.com. I think that's offline instruction that's been going on for years for home learning. And to me, it seems like it would have been easy to take your in-school curriculum, give your instructor a laptop. But I understand that with not just the teachers, but a lot of the parents themselves didn't have proper Wi-Fi, don't have equipment at home, a laptop or an iPad, which also translated to our seniors who during the pandemic couldn't just switch to online banking because they didn't use it.
never use it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where you see the inequities. Again, further inequities.
I see.
The inequities in terms of, it's a known fact that data rates in neighborhoods of color, right, are much lower than Upper East Side. That's just the fact.
The bandwidth.
The bandwidth slow.
It's just,
we're on prepaid. We're on prepaid data,
it's just
and they have 5G.
The provisions, when they provision, look how long it took Spectrum to enter the neighborhoods of color. I remember Spectrum was out like in 04, 05, and I tried to get it.
Nah.
And it was like
Even Fios. Same thing with Verizon.
Yeah.
A lot of our neighborhoods can get it.
We're not there. I was like, but you have ads. You're like, call us.
Do you remember with the cellular, when I first came to New York, and I used to push out my chest that I had AT&T, because you know how many people in our community could not get AT&T service. It was really difficult in New York. A lot of people with them, Sprint and T-Mobile, but I just find that a lot of different things are not readily accessible in our community.
Right, and we kind of assume that they are. Right? We do assume that they are because some of us have those things, right? But when we think about, and this is what makes it hard, right? When you think about other, it's like the poorer elements of our community, right? Not everyone has people, we all have access to the internet, but there's a big difference between my access to the internet is my cell phone versus I have a laptop.
Yeah.
Right.
And
or a tablet and a laptop.
Even or tablet. And tablet still can't really, to me, tablet is okay.
Yeah, but it's not
robust. It's not robust enough to.
It's not robust enough. I mean, trying to do a Word document.
Yeah.
Type up your paper.
Yeah.
Insane on a tablet.
Right. Type up your paper on the tablet. Right?
Closer to you.
No. Wrap it up. The liquor's working.
You know what I'm So yeah, tablets, cell phones versus laptops, Chromebooks. Like we don't have that, right? So we need that, right? We need that to be able to move into this new world of virtual instruction, right? And so that's going to take a seismic shift.
Yeah, I think is actually it could work out to be a very positive moment for education and the future of education if they actually now implement technology and this online learning system into the everyday learning process. So kids, when they go home and do their homework, maybe they could tap in online or do assignments. We have to be able to use this as a teaching moment in some way.
Let me jump into what we do at Casper, right? And so our program there, we went online in March. When the schools closed, we closed. It was like if it's not safe,
it's not safe.
It's not safe for anyone, right? So even before the edicts came out of you can't, we were like we not,
Right.
And so I met with the instructors, and we had like an ad hoc training because we like trying to figure it out. So it's like I have some young folks. I had one of my instructors was a recent computer science grad, and so it's like, look, let's come together and figure this Zoom thing out. We gotta get on Zoom. So we spent a few hours, and we got enough to be able to start the next weekend. So we were down for 1 week, and then we were on.
That's a huge turnaround.
And we've been on since then. And when I tell you, we've been that spring session we were on because we had to be on. So we just were really mechanical about what we did. And then when we had our summer session, I was like, okay, let's get back to what we do, right? What makes CAS different from other programs? What makes us different from other programs is we instill culture into our educational process, right? We instill
Why you say that? Why is it important to instill culture in education? Just let's hit that real quick. Why is that important?
Wow. So there's a whole field called CRE.
Okay.
Culturally relevant education, right? So that's coming. It's already here and it's growing because the studies show unequivocally, and here's the thing with this stuff. It's nothing that we have not known, but we've been deflected for so long by people who say it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Everyone should be able to do this. Everyone should be able to remember all the European countries. Wait a minute.
Why?
Is that all the countries in the world? Why are we not interested in what's happening in Asia, Africa, South America, South Africa? All our kids come from those places. So it's that Eurocentric educational system that we still have, right? I saw this.
It's deadly. It's deadly.
But someone was talking about. I saw something the other day. Why is the social studies regions all about Europe and America and the manifest destiny?
Absolutely.
Right. This Eurocentric.
White supremacist, quite frankly,
ideology
curriculum.
We are indoctrinating all our children into and holding this as a standard of what it should be, right? No, that's not what it should be.
Even let's take the math.
Slavery was real.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you, but even just take the math and sciences. Do you know how our children would perform if they knew that this was a part of their divine being?
Absolutely.
Do you know how they would take and grasp that and master it like their ancestors did?
So take that premise, and we go into our summer, and we have a 20-minute block called community building time before we start every session. And community building time is the time for. So we have a regular, our lower grade curriculum is vanilla. It's math and reading, right? Teaching reading skills and so forth. As we get into 6th, 7th grade, we definitely do introduce, a lot more in terms of like Afrocentric and type of readings and so forth. But again, my take on math is math, right? learn it, do it, make it happen, right? You know, x squared plus y squared equals c squared. Find out what c squared is. Boom.
Well,
Right? But again, before I ask you to do that, right? Every day you are receiving some information about yourself, about your ancestors, so we had a week where we dealt with Africa. We started off in Kush. Then from Kush we went to Kemet, Egypt. Then we went to Yoruba and Igbo and Benin. That was our Africa series, right? So every morning these kids are coming in and they are rolling into a video. And at first I was real vanilla with it. Then after a while, I actually signed up, paid my YouTube bill. No more ads. YouTube premium. No more premium. And so now I'm like cutting and pasting, and I'm like, boom, making presentations for my kids. When I tell you, we started at 9:50. Class starts at 10:10. Right? So you could, if you were a child, you could say, I ain't got to go there till 10:10.
Yeah, it really starts.
I get my breakfast, I get extra sleep, whatever. When I tell you that by 9:51, 80% of the kids were there. By 9:52, 95% of the kids were there. By 8:55, 100% of the kids.
Nice. And it goes to another point. I'm driving through Williamsburg and they're having their celebrations, but you have to appreciate how they revere their culture, because they don't leave educating their kids to you. They do it themselves. They have their own schools and they make sure their kids learn.
Only we leave our education to others.
Absolutely. What's necessary for them to learn and be productive in their society. They don't leave it to anyone else. And we need to take this more proactive approach, because, today our show is dedicated to solutions. And I think education is one of the biggest part of that process. Literacy has to be part of the solution. Unlearning a lot of the things that we've been indoctrinated and relearning the things that we need to know to better prepare us for our future. So, we have to really take this opportunity with homeschooling, with organizations like CAS, to really support and get our kids into these systems that are really going to benefit our children in the long run. I know for me, he was the one that got me, as a 13, 14-year-old, just, all the stuff they're sending to you, I'm just out in the world. I had S-curve back then. And he looked at me like, what the hell?
I would get next month.
Is this my little brother? Khalid Muhammad. Here's the tape. You gotta watch it. You know what I'm saying? So,
thank God for you, sir.
And the next thing you know, I developed it. He drives us down to Howard. We went down to Howard for a visit, and it was like, oh my God, a whole new world. It's like I felt better about myself. I felt confident, because I was this kid that just came from Africa, and had my little accent. I was just uncomfortable, in this world. And it wasn't until I really started this self-discovery process that I really started coming into my own. And I can imagine the impact of that with not only just immigrant African kids, but just our kids altogether. We don't know our story. And too often when it's told from this slavery subjugated, amazing grace perspective, that feeds into that narrative. And we need to change that, When you're talking about kings and queens, and like you said, we invented mathematics, astrology, physics, to know that these things were part of our history, it's empowering.
I mean, let's take what we were talking about before. I was heading right to special ed. Okay.
Why?
I set myself up for that. Right? I had to think it. Even though I was in the one schools, right? I was in the one classes, 5-1, 2-1, there's one, all the way through. It was, read from
I was acting out. I had behavioral things because once the teacher is explaining and she has to explain it again, like I get it the first time. And so when you have to keep going over it for somebody else that's not getting it, I'm off to the races. You're tired. I'm crawling on the floor. I'm all over the fucking place. I had to sit my seat because I knew I got home. Daddy see me. I was not commenting that I could not avoid the ass whooping because I just thought, right? Now the thing is that had my mother was like your mother, but my mother was 4'11". Okay, had she been intimidated, came from Jamaica with an 8th grade education, ended up she's a retired professor at LIU, okay, several degrees. Okay, that's the type of person she is. She's like your parent, right? Had she been intimidated by the teacher or the principal or the rep, my ass would have been on Ritalin or, out there on the short road to the penitentiary. Yeah. Because she didn't back down. She's like, listen, there's nothing. Once she got in there and drilled it in my ass, literally, that even though you're bored, you got to, and then filled up other things to fulfill me academically.
Right.
I would have been lost in the system.
Well, that's what's happening now is my take on it, right? Because at least you were in SP1 with other kids who were mental processes. I'll call it that, right? There's all types of different processes. We got linguistic processes, we got tactile processes, those affinities that we have, right? And that's what goes back to what I said earlier, that all our kids have skills, right? And it's on the school systems and the adults that interact with our kids to figure out what those are, right? So you were in that mental processing unit that you were with, right? You were still bored, right? So now imagine you now in the classroom with the tactile, with the linguistic, with the,
Right.
all the other talents, right? And you're trying to learn math. And the teacher says is A plus B equals C. You got it. All right, I got it. Let's move on. Mr. Linguistic was talking to Miss Linguistic, so he ain't get it. And Mr. Tactile was playing Rubik's cubes and solving it, so he didn't get it. So now the teacher got to say it again. So you're losing your mind, right? And now you now become an issue and a problem, right? You now become a behavioral issue and a problem, and you now get suspended and extracted from school. And now you have a record. And now you are in that pipeline, right? Okay. But let me get back to CRE, because cultural relevant education says this. It says that students who are informed about their history, right, who are informed about and whose history is acknowledged and respected and spoken to, will do better as students. It says that if you engage students in challenging work, right, they will do better as students. If you engage students being aware of their social and emotional needs, right, that you treat them as people, right, they will do better as students. All right, and so all of this points to that giving students, let students know that you respect them, right, that you appreciate where they come from, as opposed to you should be doing this. Right? I respect your culture. I'm not saying you got to speak English. Right? Imagine all our multilingual people. Right? I respect the fact that you speak Spanish. I respect the fact that you speak Italian, Mandarin, Yoruba. Right? Those are your talents and those skills. Bring them into the classroom. Right? Let's find ways to actualize them. Right? You will do better and good. Because guess what? At the end of the day, the child will feel better about themselves. And tell me the child who will not do better when they feel better about themselves versus the child who feels beset on because all you show him or her are images of them being incarcerated, being enslaved, being whipped, we had teachers who were using the N-word in class and justifying it by You know, I'm not saying from where, you know, but justifying it by the fact that it was from a literacy source. So now, what is happening with the black students in that particular classroom?
Feeling uncomfortable.
Right, feeling uncomfortable, not feeling too good about themselves.
Certainly doesn't create an environment conducive to learning.
To learning, right? For them anyway. So if you care about your entire class, what are you doing? Right? As opposed to a curriculum or reading that says, okay, I see these words in here. We'll read this, but we're going to omit these particular words because I as a teacher find them offensive. Right? So I'm taking a stand for you.
So if you're reading Tom Sawyer, right, which that word was in your, would you omit the word, the N word?
Absolutely. If I was reading it,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's no reason for me to read it.
Okay.
Everybody sees it on paper.
Absolutely.
It's there. Why am I reading it? But look at the flip of that. Look at what I am saying to my students when I don't read it. I don't condone this.
Absolutely, it's not acceptable.
Right? And so all of you who may feel impacted by that, I'm with you. So it could be anything. It could be something that deals with any culture in a negative sense. I'm not going to do that because you are in this class with me and you are a person, right? And so imagine if that's the conversation that we're having across the city, right? With children, where I'm acknowledging your humanity. I'm acknowledging who you are as a person. I'm acknowledging your culture. I'm embracing it as a teacher, as the person who's the leader of this group that we have, right? You matter to me, right? Imagine what education would look like then, right?
And that would reflect in our test score, our children's test scores. It would reflect
absolutely.
in our graduation rates
Absolutely.
on every level.
I just have one more question before we transition to our current issues. When we're speaking of education, how hard is it for us to come together and start putting together our own schools? I know you've looked at it a little bit, but what is the process? Can we put more of our own schools together?
Well, what do you mean your own schools? Are we building the curriculum?
Yes, I mean, so it would be like a
Because
charter
create
school
schools and
or.
accept their curriculum.
I don't think I'm saying not a public school, not, they're charter schools, they're special, they're other types of, so those kind of schools, how hard or how easy it is for us to start developing these schools. Because once again, if you see the importance in it, it's imperative that you get your kids in it. So, but we first have to create that environment. So how hard is it to create that environment?
It's challenging. I think I'll be real honest with that, is that resources are a big part of that, right? When we think about independent black schools, right? You're either being funded by the parents or self-funded.
And you see,
None of that is
enough.
really sustainable.
There's enough.
Like
Funded by parents needing
tuition, right? But again, even Casper, you can't find, outside of free, you cannot find a lower enrichment course program than us, right, in New York City, outside of free. But free means they are supported by somebody from the outside. So they have a grant there. So, fine. We still have to discount. And we do it without hesitation. Like, it's not an issue for us because it's about the child, right? So we believe that we will always find a way in that. And we do get random donations. I mean, you will get a donation from somebody we don't even know.
But here's my thing. We are living in a time, our fundraising has to be better. We have these athletes making $40 million a year. We have celebrities making all kinds of. I don't want to see their G4s and Maybach. I don't want. Can we tap into some of that money? Are we even asking them? Are they even aware of what we're trying to do? That's a big question.
I think that's a as you state that, I think that's a Donnatella. I think that's an untapped market, right? That we have to find a way to connect CBOs, community-based organizations who are doing things to help our children with money, right? As represented by our athletes who are now say they're socially conscious. They basketball players are wearing stuff, football players have stuff on the field, baseball players take a knee. All right, all of that is cool, but find an organization, find a CBO to connect with that is going to do the work for our. There's in every industry, there's enough people who say they care to make this one happen.
And I am
starting their own school. So there's several basketball players who are doing that. But you're right in terms of taking like a project like yours, which is phenomenal, and then finding that bridge to where that money lies. Because I think as of today, Dwayne Wade now is co-owner of Budweiser, and Budweiser is trying to rebrand.
Peter doesn't like that at all.
Yeah. And so when I first saw it,
I saw it too.
to be honest, when I first saw the ad, I was like, beer? Because there's a liquor store on every corner.
Right.
But if they're now going to say, okay, here
Well, Wayne is his
we
logo.
put these two brown faces, but actually he's the co-owner, but I don't know who the lady is in the ad. They said he is now connecting with someone who's changing the face of Budweiser, and it's a black woman. And her name is not there, but I didn't get a chance to.
I'm not mad at beer. I'm just saying the brand. You have to attach yourself to a white brand that has been complicit in the oppression of. You know what I mean? If you want to do beer, we created beer. We created everything.
Right.
Do our own beer.
Right, but it's the white brand that now, given the movement, and it's it's not a movement. It is what it is now. It is politically correct to be attached to a black and brown entity.
Right.
So you have these white brands that have lots of money. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm saying a lot of our small businesses, a lot of our entities need to stand up and take a look. Hey, you need a little bit of money from everyone unless you're going to do crowdfunding or whatever it is. Sorry, my hair is blowing.
Okay. Max is Donatella. Max is because if I get a little piece of hair, where does hair come from, man? Max, it's on video. It's on video. It was Donatella's hair that flew across and hit me in the chest. Okay.
If you could though, just a little thing of ice, that would be great for the water.
No, but just to make a little quick point, everyone is on this prison reform thing, and I think what they're doing, they're pumping a lot of resources and money. But you know what? Let's get into preventative action, and I think let's change. Not that that's not needed. Sure, it's needed, but let's talk about education so these kids don't have to go to prison. Let's get early intervention, and there's no movement because there's a movement right now with Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump. It's all about and as a black man, I'm actually offended sometimes talking about prison because that's not all of our lives, and they make it seem like when you're talking about black issues, you have to talk about prison.
Well, you have to because the
I get it.
The numbers in prisons are black and browns,
But we have to. But see, this is the thing about it. See, if we don't get into preventative, guess what? They're still going to be profiting off of us. We're still going to be sent to those prisons to be reformed.
Right,
So we got to stop that.
Yeah, but you also have to talk to us that have percentages in those privately owned prisons as well.
Oh my God.
And there's some big names there.
On our first solutions episode, Sam is a great first guest because when you try to identify, you look at all the social ills that plague our community, right? there are very few things that really hit to the heart of our plight and how it can change. For me, one of the biggest things is economic warfare, strategically using our $2 trillion that we just shit away in Jordans and flash screens. The other one is what Sam is doing. Sam represents real change.
Absolutely.
And Sam gets them before, you know what I mean? Like,
And here's and just I'm just gonna, you know, just what's possible, right? What's possible now, right? In this new age of what we've discovered about Zoom and teaching online, right? Is that we can reach a child who is in Mississippi right now.
Absolutely.
Right? He could be a part, or she could be a part of our program.
Absolutely.
That child in Atlanta could be a part of our program, right? That child in
Anywhere. In Nigeria.
we actually have one student who's somewhere on the other side of the world right now.
And still
logging on at the right times, being, you know, learning, interacting with the kids over here. You know, the other day she was like, "Oh, we don't start school till next week," and the kids were like, "Oh, you know, we're so jealous." Like we have the ability to bring together our children from all over the world right now in this effort, right? And
hi, MJ.
but you know,
Say hi this time.
it's not free. Like, you know, you gotta pay people, right? And, you know, so yeah, definitely we need support. We need to engage with these people who say, you know what, Black Lives Matter, or whatever they want to write on the back of their shirt. Make it real, right? Make it real, because we're developing processes to help children all over the world. And we're not just, and we're helping all children. Like, we don't stop at, oh, you gotta be Black, or you gotta be queer. Like,
I think you should, but
no, we can't. I can't, because you know what?
As an educator,
We just brought in about
Thank you.
thank you,
6
MJ.
low-income students from, and you know, in Asian countries, right?
They face the same problems we do.
The same problems
They
we
do.
do.
They do.
And that's what's different about us, Peter. That's
They're
what's
children.
different
No,
about us.
listen to it.
We have humanity.
They're going to be going to school with children that, like, that are
In our community.
In our community. And so, don't you, like, what they will learn about, being able to connect and learn and see that, hey, you know what, the stuff that they say
It's not
true.
Yeah,
That there's value in that, right?
absolutely.
There's value in that. There's value in them hopefully developing friendships with these other students.
Absolutely.
Okay, like
Because prejudice, I think,
we gotta-
is a learned behavior. So if the kids don't naturally interact with other demographics, they can only inherit either the positive or the negative that's been taught to them by their parents or by their grandparents or whoever. So there's an opportunity also for that child to re-educate.
And again, remember,
And we're the silent majority,
But
Peter.
wait, it is not racist. It is not prejudice at this point. We are trying to get our kids together. There's been an onslaught for centuries.
Forever.
Okay, and so if we take our kids aside and say, hey, for the time being, until we get on a certain playing field, that we're just going to take ours and develop ours. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing negative about that.
My point is
let
that
me just say real quick. Remember our CPT, right? All those kids have to be there for that lesson, that history lesson on the world, coming from the perspective, our perspective, right? All of them are there watching the history of Kush. All of them are watching the history of Kemet. All of them are watching the history of the Yoruba people. All of them are watching the history.
and it affects their value and belief system.
Right? All of them are watching this, right? And so you're impacting all of these children with the real history of the world, right? And at some point, all of them will be watching the history of, you know, the system that came. I'm losing the word. There was a system that came out of China where they were doing the
Calligraphy?
abacus.
No, advocacy.
Right. Like, we need to value that too, right? That's, you know, along with all of the, so it's not like we need to, so I guess what I'm saying is We don't need to exclude anyone. That's already been done. We need to
It's really
include
done.
us
Okay.
all.
So when we talk about when De Blasio
Mhm.
right says that I want to make this testing for Black and brown students to get into those top
Right.
8 now schools, and I want to make certain changes. The blowback was tremendous.
Oh, absolutely.
And so even when I went on our own, when we went on our own page,
Yes, the
our
alumni
alumni page,
Yes.
the
Vitriol.
the vitriol was
Against our children.
vicious against our children. Now,
From who?
I'm about to tell you. We don't have to give you a half-assed story. Okay, so when you looked, it wasn't even who you thought it was going to be from. It wasn't from the white students. It was from the Asian parents, from Asian alumni that we went to school with are now spitting shit that you never heard, you never thought. Because even though we were amongst the best of the best, and a lot of them were Asian, white, whatever, we were in a cocoon in our own, and and so when I started to see the type of responses. Well, you wanna do away with this, or you to just study your books. Tell your mother stop having 8 different children for 8 baby fathers.
But that's part of why you need the children, because those people are not speaking from the Black friends that they know. They're speaking directly from what they've been taught on television.
Let me finish. All right. So whenever you see that, and like I said, it took me by surprise. I did my research on the back end. Okay. There is a network of Asian funded, Asian ran, Asian facilitated, where kids are being taken from China, the mainland, to other different places, and they're put in a pipeline to where they are being prepared to go to these, at the time, top 3 schools.
Yeah.
Just these schools, because once you get certain grades in those schools, your future,
Your prestige, absolutely.
Like, once you graduate from that school with a 95, 90 plus, 93 plus, your future is written out for you. And I realized that there is a concerted effort by many groups, but particularly that one, to keep our kids right where they are.
I don't know if they're trying to keep our kids where they are, but I watched this documentary as well that talked about the wealthy Asian families who specifically target the Ivy League private schools here in America. And they come over and you have these wealthy kids living in houses by themselves while their parents are at home in California, New York, where these big schools are. And it's less about keeping the brown and blacks out, but more about making sure they keep the power.
That's what they want you to believe. But I'm telling you, I did the research.
Okay.
Because there were other people that went to Brooklyn and we got together. We're like, yo, what is this? And so we look, and yes, there is a concerted effort now. Understand this, and please, I didn't want to get into this with our guests here because,
okay.
But
we're not talking about your program.
But
no, it's all right.
But if you look at the long game, right? Their long game, they have a concerted effort to keep our kids there because we fund them. They're chicken wings, they're hair, they're all the products that they bring into our community. If we get out and we start to, and everybody gets a chance to go to Sam's program, and we know who we are and we elevate, guess what? They lose billions. So yeah, it is a concerted effort to keep our kids where it is.
But those people they can't impact what we're doing. Like if our people come, our people will be served. So if that's what they want, if our people come to us or find us or
agreed. I'm only addressing the fact that people are saying, oh, it's not right to just do us. It's okay. I understand why you don't, Sam. I understand why you
right. And that's the thing. As an educator,
right, I understand that.
I can't say that. I can't do that because children are children, right? Now, as a Pan-Africanist, right, who understands the decimation of African culture that has occurred over thousands and hundreds and thousands of years, like I said, in my program, you will have to interact with that reality, right?
Right.
And so if you're from any place else, right, and you have an issue with that, that's you.
That's you.
You can leave.
Absolutely.
Right? But if you come into this is what we do. because we understand that, and we invite everyone to learn. We invite everyone to become re-educated about the history of the world. I mean, and it's not just a cultural thing. We do it. Everything that we do, like as much as possible, is also gender balanced, right? So if we're going to talk about the brothers, we're talking about the sisters too, right? Because sisters they've been marginalized.
Absolutely.
We did one last thing, and we did something on, like, again, computer science, right? Do you know the first true computer science? I mean, you know, we have Hidden Figures as a movie.
Right.
That was not an isolated incident, right? And it wasn't just sisters; it was women that were doing that work that men didn't want to do. It wasn't sexy at the time, right? And not for nothing, the women were amazing at it. They were like freaking the first computers, right? And so, but where's that today? Like computer science is a Eurocentric male dominated field. It wasn't like that before. Guess what? It was a conscious effort to move women out of that field that made it what it is now. And I'll tell you, you know, YouTube is wonderful.
It is.
It is.
It really is.
1984. We were there, right? What do you see? Who gaming? Computers are now what about gaming? Right?
Yep.
What was the company? Commodore, right?
Commodore 64.
Commodore 64. Who's in the commercials?
I don't
Little
know.
boys.
All boys.
Yeah. Well, that's also why they created pink Lego sets, because there's certain fields that were geared toward boys, not just technology.
But I'm saying, like, it wasn't by chance.
It was deliberate.
During that period of time,
I
it
agree.
was during that period of time you had women in CS, and so you began to market computers as some kind of male type of activity, and then, oh my God, then you started creating guilds that were male dominated, and these guilds began to affect curriculum and testing and so forth and so on. That kind of skewed things a little bit towards the members of the guild. And there were no women in the guild, right? So now you create this industry which is like women, right? So again, and I'm just saying that to say that we address that as well. Like, so I'm saying, like the history of the world is full of stuff that people don't know anything about, and we need to inform as many of our kids of it as possible, so that this next generation can be a little bit different.
The history of the world has been a Eurocentric, white man dominated perspective, which is what they're fighting for. One amazing stat I found today was RGB was the first woman laid in state.
Right. And now they're going
In
to
the
get her
history
wishes
of this
now
country.
That she's
The
died.
first woman
That's crazy.
That's
in
embarrassing.
2020.
That's embarrassing.
And you see
This is the
what
first
you see what
woman
Trump is trying to
laid
do with
in
her
state.
her office or her level now, which apparently goes against her.
It's just amazing. Just, 2020. That's the first woman laid in state.
That's the first one.
When we do our.
Oh, he has to. He has to. So let's get into it.
So you know, this is where it gets exciting. This is why we have.
I'm looking up. Let's go.
MJ and
I'll take a grandma name.
Oh my God.
a Grand Marnier for Peter.
That, super orange liqueur.
So the second half of our show is usually where our beloved guest exits, but as you have noticed so far, Sam is actually part of the Amarachi family.
I think it'll change.
You know?
No. Stay like that. Stay
The
there.
second half is where we start to address local topics that are, either upsetting or exciting to us. And I guess I think we should start off with the big upset yesterday with Breonna Taylor, and I guess the under arrests that were actually made. Only one officer was charged in that shooting, and the various protests that have spread across. So I don't know.
Peter, let's go.
There's nothing to say. I told you this when the check was cut. Okay, there was a reason why the civil went before the criminal. I told you that. And anytime, and from my knowledge of corporate America and everything, anytime they feel that there's something that you can be held liable for, once they cut that check, there's something on the back end that says that you cannot bring any forward movement toward whatever's on your mind. And the fact that this was cut a couple of weeks ago, you knew that it was coming out of this. And Ben Crump, I don't know who the designated him to be. He gets 33 and a third of that, which is about 4 million. There's nothing going. They sold, no disrespect, but they sold out justice for their loved one. And that's how do you take that check? There's nothing coming.
I disagree, right? So the legal aspect of it, when you settle, you're usually given a gag order, you can't speak anymore, that part is done. With the criminal aspect, it is the first time I've ever seen a civil settlement before they even say anything about the criminal charges, right?
Right.
But I don't take that as a sellout, because again, we're not related to the person who lost her life. Now, what I find very heartbreaking is the fact that, to me, and I don't know all the details of everything that's going on, people are now trying to argue the fact that even though they weren't supposed to be in Breonna's house at all of these connections she has, so allegedly with people who are incarcerated or who she rented a car for, or who she's friends with, I don't see how that comes into play with the fact that they had the wrong address for a knock order in the first place.
Yeah. And one of the cops involved is out there, the day before this happened,
making his case
and saying they canonize the lowlife, something of that nature. He said they canonize, like he was saying basically that Breonna Taylor was a lowlife, that she deserved, that she was of no consequence, but they demonize us,
the police,
like the police,
and that's what we're bringing up her affiliation with.
So we're the good guys, even though we walked into somebody else's apartment and started knock down the door and started shooting. Those people are not anywhere close to who we are as people that we should. So they are canonized and we're demonized.
And what they're alleging, I'm sorry, go ahead. What they're alleging is because the boyfriend who had a registered gun felt threatened for him and his family and fired one single warning shot, because again, they're inside, they have no idea who's outside, the door busts in, he fires a warning shot, and he's on the phone with 911. Because of that warning shot, by law, they are legally, they can legally shoot and
so
do
what about his
whatever.
right to protect his home and the people in his home?
And that's where they come back with the whole thing saying, well, okay, here's who Breonna was. She does these things for these people. And I don't see where one has anything
What does
to
that have to do with it?
But
They were in the wrong place.
right. And what I do find is that whether it is situations like this, rape victims, people who are choked in the middle of the street for little or no cause, I see the media always starts to victimize the victim. Go back and dig through their records, see at age 15 this person did blah blah blah, and they're 40 something, and that's my argument. That I don't see where
I've been thinking about this on so many different levels. One, do the police now see themselves as Gestapo? Because in the 80s and the 90s, when we talked about all these oppressive foreign countries that infringed on civil liberties and human rights, and have they now accepted that they are now one of these countries?
They have. Yeah.
That's one point, and then the other point is that I call them the enemy. The enemy is predicting our response, and I find that offensive. I find it offensive. They've brought it up downtown. They've sent everyone home. They've declared a state of emergency because they expect people to get in the streets and protest.
Violently, that's what they expect.
Do protests even work anymore? Is it even worth our time to protest?
It works, but it's a distraction.
No, but what is the point at this point right now? They have the National Guard. They have military vehicles. They're looking to kill people.
But how do you see?
What is the point of protesting?
There is none, okay? But to make people feel like it's the same thing with voting. And I know we're going to get back into this, but the norm, if the police have been Gestapo-minded since their inception. What has happened with our current administration is everybody's true feelings and true desires of who they are and where they fit in the hierarchy of America is now being exposed.
Yeah.
And so it is, we want to get back to normal. We want to get rid of this idiot so we can go back to what seems like we're fine with that undercurrent of oppression.
No, that's where I disagree. No, that's where I disagree, because I think this is we have an opportunity to actually make change. I think we have a real opportunity because I look at the people in the streets. There are more white people in the streets than black people.
You keep going back to
no, seriously. And listen.
So what does that mean to you? How does that
meaning there are more people that are showing empathy to our situation than ever before. That truly are trying to understand what role they could have been playing in carrying on this white supremacist
that's a wonderful
global.
That's a wonderful thing.
And I think we're tired. Motherfuckers are tired of fighting. People are tired.
I think people are realizing that
they want peace.
When we think about much of the penal system, and when we think about when you go back in history, and you go back to the period after slavery, post-Reconstruction. Reconstruction was actually a positive period, right? And then you have post-Reconstruction. And the laws after post-Reconstruction were completely aimed at putting black people back into slavery through the penal system. And the former, what do they call the former people, the former, not the slaveholders, but who are the people that actualized their command?
The overseers?
The overseers, those type folks. Yeah. That became the first police force. Yeah. They were the slave catchers. Right, the slave catchers. Those were the first police force because those first laws were about criminalizing freedom. Our freedom. African people who were free. Right. Completely. And so the only way to change those laws is to put people in there that can change it. Like if we don't change those laws, those people will still have the ability to do what they do. Like the laws have to change.
And the people have to change in order to change the law. Like you have to get rid of McConnell if you want to see. Like that's why I said the people matter. Like Peter, I see how you see things, but there's still people, and if we remove people, we can get change. Like I said, we have I keep going back to Letitia James and what she's doing. She is on their ass. She's on Trump's son's ass. She just won another. She said you got to October 7th. You can't hide no more after October 7th.
They're calling them to task.
Listen.
If she's not there, right, they will get called to task. We don't get to see what he's hiding. They're looking at charging the Trump empire for tax fraud. And they're the only, listen, they're the only people right now.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're the only ones right now that are actually threatening this man.
Okay, wonderful. As Sam said, right, slavery only transitioned from chattel to penal. That's it. And it tells you right in the 13th Amendment. We go through this every week, okay? The first order of business once slavery was abolished, right? Abolished was, how do we get as many ex-slaves back into slavery?
Absolutely.
Right? So that's why you have the code laws.
Not immediately.
They have
their systems.
Because you actually
have like a black senator and black.
Absolutely.
So there was a period of time where folks was like, oh, okay, this is kind of okay.
Right.
And then
and we prospered, and they saw us owning, and they saw us, right? But the economy of the United States, which was based on the free labor system, would have collapsed if they didn't implement such laws like spitting on the street can get you 5 years.
Right.
Look, this is walking on the same side as the street as a white man can get you 8 years. You know, I mean, ridiculous shit. Congregating more than 3 black people could get you 5 years, right? Now you have this newly freed people. What else are we gonna do but congregate and try to figure out what our next moves are?
Right.
Now, what I'm saying to you is, the powers that be, the politicians didn't put that caveat in the 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor indentured servitude shall be deemed legal unless duly convicted. It was the people that had the framework, the owners of America. And so if that doesn't change and you're just changing the pawns and the pieces, what are we really doing?
Well,
there's still a free
these guys write legislation
based on a free labor system. That is not going to change. The job of the slave catcher was the same as the job of the police, which is to staff the free labor system with as many sons and daughters as possible.
But
Biden is not going to change it. In fact,
it doesn't have to be. But look, it doesn't have. But Peter, it doesn't have to be. Joe Biden did not coin the phrase defunding the police. Okay, this is something we never heard of till this year, and this is what I'm saying. It's not about the president. Listen, it's not about just the president. What I'm saying is we are seeing moves that we've never seen before. Defunding the police. That's the concept. 2 years ago, you would never think would come out of a white man's mouth.
Credit goes to the man who is exposing the racism.
You can't give Trump credit for defunding the police.
He gets the credit for exposing the racism that has always been a part of American government.
Being a
He's
racist.
not exposed.
Being a racist is not exposed.
He does not get credit. He does not get credit for because he's so evil. He's good.
he's good.
Yes.
Because he's the one exposing how ridiculous this shit is.
He's not exposed.
He is it.
He is not. So he created racism?
He is racist.
He goes into every president that who is born into it. His policies speak to
So
it.
it's Reagan.
But we're talking about him.
George Washington.
And we voted all the asses out.
We accept. No.
And we voted all of them out. We fought against all of them.
Against people in housing
That we say that we want to get right back to sleep with a Democrat.
Nobody wants to get rocked back. Black people are not looking.
Advancement. When have you seen the type of advancements that we're having in the 60s?
You sound like my friends in Atlanta who are like, they
Let's say agitation.
Yes, it's a good thing for black people.
All right. It's a good thing for black people.
Yes.
The deaths of children who are in his concentration camps is a good thing for Hispanic people because it's going to lead to agitation. The death of thousands of freaking people,
200,000,
died because of his handling of this goddamn virus is a good thing because
you can't say
or without.
Peter, no, Peter. This is the only country.
His policies speak to the deaths of thousands of people in our community. In our community.
You have to. It is, but it is emotional. That's why you can't.
Is the primary reason for that.
Let's take the kids first. I don't want to get into that because
You have to get Peter. But it is.
It's invented taking away children, black and brown children.
That is an Obama.
There's a standard from slavery that has never changed. What do you think our CPS?
But listen, no. You cannot absolve this man the responsibility of destroying this country. He's destroying this country. He's destroying, and whether we choose to align with Democrats, the Green Party, whoever the fuck, it doesn't matter.
Black folks are waking up.
But we cannot give him credit.
You gotta give him credit.
No, you can't give him
You
credit.
gotta give him credit. All of y'all are taking it like credit. It's a quick thing.
So people are waking up.
Yes.
So we need 4 more years for people to wake up.
I'm not complaining. Sam, I'm not complaining.
To keep waking up. He needs to still be there so people can keep waking up.
People are dying.
Pressure.
No.
So
Trump is killing people.
Dying still.
Because of COVID, this was gonna happen whether he.
No, Peter.
Yes.
The man is going out there telling people right now,
Person.
forget your PPEs. Just go out there willy-nilly and do what you gotta do. That's irresponsible.
This person decimated the responses team that was there.
So did y'all see that CDC cut the numbers from people that died from COVID from 200 and something thousand down to like 9,000?
Why did they do that?
Well, that means that what I'm saying to you is, does that mean that
COVID related?
I'm not saying you're COVID related? Like our government is lying to us, has been lying to us.
We know that, but he's the one that's in charge of all of that. He's the government.
That's what it is.
That's the whole point. He is the liar in chief. Everything he says is a lie.
So was Reagan, so was all the other presidents. So
We're not justifying any of them.
Reagan? Who's sitting up there holding the Reagan flag?
Nobody.
Holding the Bush flag.
Even Democratic flag. We don't sit here and honor them either.
like a lying racist is something new to America.
No. This is on steroids. This guy is on steroids. Why? Because he does not care. See,
Okay, so
hold on, Peter. The difference between Trump and Bush is Bush cared about public opinion.
oh my God.
Bush cared about what people thought of him and his family and his legacy. This man has no morals. This man does not care. This man does not care. So Bush did his dirty, but try to lie and conceal to the best of their ability. I'm not saying there's any honor in that. They're both scumbags. But this guy is a dishonorable scumbag.
Between Bush and Trump is that Bush had the benefit of having an ex-president as a father and the ex-director of the CIA as a father.
Listen, you can't even say that. Bush went to those military families and cried his fake crocodile tears and pandered to them. No,
That's diplomatic. And
it doesn't matter to us.
on cue.
It doesn't, Peter. It doesn't matter to us because it's both bullshit.
Fuck you.
It's both, but it's still both bullshit.
It is. So why are you hoping that a Biden win is going to change the lives?
No, we want Trump out.
You want Trump
Period.
out. That's the
I don't think they can put a frog as a president. All right?
Get him out to what?
They can put a frog as a president and it'd be better.
Vote for him, right?
It'd be better.
Vote for him no matter who.
No. They could put a frog as a president.
Do you think that Biden would send ICE into the neighborhoods?
And when they allowed the local Jamaicans to do that.
Do you think that's what Biden would do?
I think that immigration had to be addressed in a certain way. I don't agree with the way
Do
he
you
did it.
think Biden, in Trump's position, would have set ICE into the neighborhoods to grab?
That makes him less evil. I don't know what he would have done, Sam.
Look, I'm asking what you think.
I know that.
I know
what his policies suggest, and his policy Sam suggests that he has built his entire political history on putting black people in jail and stepping on our necks. That's what history.
There's nothing about what Biden does threatens me at all.
From funds that you think you're better than the person that makes a mistake and go to jail.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. There's nothing about Biden that scares me, but everything about Trump is a threat to me. You understand that? You can call me a loser all you want, but there's nothing about Biden that scares me. There's nothing. Tell me why I should be afraid of Biden.
Look at his history.
Tell me why. Me. Why should I be afraid of him? Why does it have to do with me?
Because you say to yourself, I'm not a criminal, so it doesn't affect
I'm not.
But it affects your good. It affects your good.
I'm not a criminal. It's not just listen. Criminals are not just black, bro.
Bro,
And that's what I'm saying. You're feeding into a bullshit narrative. Criminals don't know color. Everybody comes as a criminal.
Biden's record is clear. If you want to ignore it, say
No, I don't know. What I'm saying is, I'm not worried about that. Why am I worried about Biden? Why am I worried about criminal shit?
You're not worried about someone that has shown a proven history of fucking up your community?
No. He's not fucking up my community. He's fucking up criminals. He's fucking up criminals. I don't associate with criminals.
And
I don't.
Wait.
I don't.
Not knowing you. So criminals.
I don't. Whether they're Chinese, whether they're white, whether they're black, I don't fuck with them. So what do you want from me? Why would I be afraid of Biden?
That's amazing.
I think
Unless you fuck with criminals, then you're afraid of Biden.
You run a business in Brooklyn. You don't fuck with criminals. Not knowingly. Your customers. No. The families that surrounding the community. You're not affected by.
So you're glorifying criminality right now.
By mass incarceration.
So you're glorifying criminality. Is that what you're doing right now?
while we're talking about criminality, let's talk about solutions.
How do you not get? That's what you're doing right now. Like it's a badge of honor for me to be in the hood and be saying that I love criminality.
I mean, come on. See, that's the elitist bullshit I'm talking about.
You can call me whatever you want. Who's ignoring it? Who's ignoring it? I don't want no part of it. I want you to come here, eat your food, and get the fuck out. I don't want no part of your criminality.
It's like Breonna Taylor. You know why she's getting her ass run through the right now?
No, because she's black.
Because in certain neighborhoods,
She's black.
it's unavoidable.
No, it's not. That's not true. That is not true. That is not true. That is a racist system that emboldens, that tell Blue Lives Matter, that emboldens your boy, that emboldens cops to go into the neighborhood and kill people. And you want to give him credit for waking them up, but he's killing people. But he's killing people.
Another topic because I can't.
Yeah.
You know,
let's draw back.
Right.
Our lovely producer has turned the monitor toward us so that we could talk about solutions. Because I think you guys, we all brought up some great points. And I'm from Brooklyn, and I know a lot of criminals. So I don't want to see anything happen to them.
I don't. Listen. It's not on my radar. That's their shit. It's not for me. I said I'm not worried about Biden.
I'm
right?
worried about Biden.
So what criminals want to do? That's their business.
I'm worried about Trump because it's not just criminals. He's talking about all.
Donnatella, listen, Peter. It's extremely ignorant to think that Trump is going to allow criminals to wet the bed. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Oh my God.
To stack the Supreme Court for the next 30, 40 years. Like, we may be...
He's poison.
And with his racist, conservative appointees, right?
Right.
Like the impact of that.
Yeah.
The man has no morals. He has no values. He's a liar.
This man will have the Supreme Court
stacked
with people who hate women, who want to control
black people. Right? We don't want you to be able to vote. Right? And that's okay.
As unimportant as voting may be to some, right? But they still want to take it away.
Listen.
Like, why is it so important to take it away if it's not
important?
So viewers are saying that they're enjoying the conversation, but we can sing together, but we can't all talk together, and they're missing some of the points. So let's take.
That's Peter get my goddamn blood pressure high.
Thank you for the contribution.
And then with the criminals, Gangsta Pete.
From Alabama.
Listen. Go ahead.
they're gonna get
They absolutely don't fucking hear this guy. No voting Trump supporter.
You guys get it twisted and think that because I am not a supporter.
Yes, you
I
are.
am not a contributor.
You sound like one.
I am not going to vote for him.
Are you sure?
Are you going to vote?
Ooh, that's a different good
I'm not
thing.
going to vote for him.
Are you gonna vote?
He's not gonna. Peter's not voting. Peter will not vote.
He said that his mom said he has to vote. Did he say so he has to
If
vote?
I
He's gonna go vote for Kanye West. Yeah, that's who he's gonna fucking vote for.
Kanye got one vote. We gotta know who it is.
I put Trump's name in, my vote as is going to be wasted because I'm not jumping on your bandwagon. I cannot vote for Biden.
I am all the way on the bandwagon. I hate Biden. Okay, you hear me? I hate Biden. I don't like him at all. There's nothing because Trump killed my fucking brother. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? And it's not emotional. This is facts. No. It's not emotional. This is facts. So the man killed my brother, so he does not deserve to be president. He doesn't deserve to kill not one more human being on this planet. Okay? His bullshit, him knowing on February 7th that this shit is so dangerous, he could have fucking canceled Valentine's Day. No, he let that shit go on. And people went out and partied and infected and reinfected. And he ordered these stupid ass fucking ventilators and killed how many people? So he doesn't get another 4 years. He needs to be in a jail. He needs to answer. He needs to answer for these crimes.
It's very pinpointed.
Absolutely, it's pinpointed. It's sharp.
We're talking about we're talking about a whole bunch of
I need another beer.
With the pandemic happening, whether he was in office or not. Yes.
Who says he didn't create that shit? How do you know that he did it? How do you know he did it? How do you know he did it? I'm not saying he did. How do you know he did
They're
it?
telling us there's a fraud by the Democrats when the shit is
It's a hoax.
goddamn country killing people.
He's telling you it's a hoax.
Would have been different.
He's telling his people, you don't have to wear masks. But behind closed doors, he's telling everyone on his campaign, yo, you better have that fucking mask on back there.
As his campaign started to become infected, you don't hear no more about the poor black guy.
Why did he
What's his name? What's his name?
Why did he wear a mask at RGB's funeral today? Why did he wear a mask? He's such a fucking phony. He's a phony. And I'm tired of anyone that even wants to support him in any kind of way. He's a phony. He's telling you, don't wear a mask. But he's going to wear one.
I'm not supporting him. All I'm saying is that your thought process of bringing Biden in and then him making everything okay is very.
No one said all of that shit. You add all of that to it. You add all of that to it, right? Biden is an unknown. We don't know what Biden is going to bring. It's the unknown. And I'd rather have the unknown than have what I know. What I know is unacceptable.
Here's what we do now. And I don't know, for me, I'm so on to the power of the president and the Supreme Court because the law of the friggin' land is so friggin' important when it comes down to it. And so I don't know what Biden will do, but I know he would not have appointed Kavanaugh, right? He would not have appointed Thomas. He would not have appointed any of those dudes. And Scalia. If for nothing else than that, if for nothing else than the rights of people being freaking destroyed by a conservative court, by a court that's about
Upholding white supremacy.
white supremacy. That to me is enough to go the other way.
And I agree.
One other point we have to address. Trump has been saying.
MJ, please,
Trump,
I need more alcohol. Turn me into an addict in one show.
Trump has been saying, this is my concern. I believe that we're all outside during the pandemic just because if we were inside, people would unequivocally vote for anything blue when the election comes. I do believe for the winter time, we're probably going to be inside. I don't know if you noticed. The UK has started.
I'm going inside.
They have started.
I'm leaving the country.
All restaurants and pubs have to close at 10. Anybody who can work remotely has to work remotely. My concern is the election is November 3rd, right? On November 3rd, we're voting for more than just the president. You have the mayors and all the other people that you need to vote. On November 4th, I do believe that Trump is going to try not to leave the presidency, regardless of what the results are. So he's already told you in so many words that the mail-in ballots fake. The only way the Democrats are going to win is if they hijack it. You're not.
This is a Negro sitting at 30% approval.
Let me just finish. He is setting the stage to have all of his gun-toting, supremacist, racist people to revolt if he doesn't win. He is going to, and call martial law. Now, if that happens, my understanding is the acting president, if there's some type of melee or we're at war, could actually hold his role as president indefinitely. So they've been talking about this since like February, March time.
How do you feel about that, Peter? You okay with that?
With him not stepping down, peaceable,
Forcefully taking power.
I'm okay with whatever has to be, because I look into the future.
But I think Peter's okay with it, not because he wants to see Trump in office, but Peter thinks that's the straw that's going to break the back of the Black Panther.
And what are we going to do? Our 2 million going to get out there with 10 million?
I'm not gonna.
We can't even do all of that. No, we are not prepared to fight no war, yo.
I want to go back to what Sam said, right? Okay, because the most powerful tool of the president are his Supreme Court appointees and all the other judges, federal appointees. I get that.
Putting black people in.
So let me ask you all a question.
To continue the pipeline.
So let me ask you all a question.
Educate people because of the color of their skin.
So let me ask you all a question.
Before you ask the question, I just want to give you a comment. We got to engage the people who are online.
All day. Thank you,
Donnatella. Tell
Donnatella.
him, I'm assuming him as Peter. You can tell him where it comes from. We must vote. That's the start of real change. Real change will come when laws are first changed and then enforced. This will not happen overnight, which I get you're saying it's not happening.
I get it, right.
So what's the question?
So I agree with Sam that these appointees are the power of the president long term. It is the single most thing that he has in his power to affect long-term change. Okay? All right. Let me finish right here. So where was y'all smoke when they didn't allow y'all's boy Obama, right, the chance to pick his third pick? I didn't see any of this smoke. I didn't see any of this energy.
Because I'm not Obama hugger.
You guys
are me.
I
don't like Obama. I'm not an Obama hugger.
That should have been rioting in the street.
Why?
Even if people run
For a Democrat?
that have done, they had the numbers there.
Look at my rioting for a Democrat.
So you mean the only time a president can pick the appointees when he has a majority in the House? No.
Senate.
The House has nothing to do with the electoral process.
Senate is the one that runs the thing.
I get it.
They had the power in the Senate. Obama can't make them do it. The House can't make them do it. You can't make, they can write in the streets all they goddamn what. They can't make.
Wait. He can bring his appointee, and then the House has to sit him before it and ask him questions. House has nothing to do with it. Whatever.
No, the Senate refused to.
They filibustered him. No. Yes, they did. McConnell did it. No. Are you kidding me? You don't know this? Is that the right and power of the president or not?
No. It is the
No.
oh my God.
Okay, Peter, for homework tonight, go look at what McConnell did to Obama. All right? He told Obama he would not be able to bring his justice.
What did Obama do?
There was nothing he could do.
Nothing he can
He used the law. No, what are you talking about? Go read it.
This is the attitude that I'm talking about.
It's not an attitude. McConnell blocked him. Of course he did.
Said he couldn't take.
Neil Gorsuch, that's his name. Obama nominated him. They would not bring him to the floor. Period. They said, Obama, you're leaving next year. You don't get the whole year. Absolutely. That's how Republicans play. They don't play fair. They don't play nice. Neil Gorsuch never got.
You're making it
a hearing.
partisan thing, and
It is, but it's true. It is true.
What is it?
Democrats have integrity, man. Republicans don't have integrity.
No, stop. Peter,
They do.
stop. Go back. Just
Go read this Neil Gorsuch.
go read back
Just go read.
1 week to when they brought up the discussion. And Mitch McConnell said,
It would never happen.
thin fucking lip mouth, dried up and everything, that we do not need on what we consider an opposition party. The history of it says we do not need to have that person's nominee validated. We are holding on for the election. We get the president we want, and we will then make our decision.
When has that happened before?
All the fucking time, unfortunately.
Well, I got to do my homework. I'll do my homework. Yeah, I'll do my homework. That doesn't change my stance.
No, but at least you understand what's going on better. This is bullshit. Peter, they are going against exactly what they did.
And that makes them warriors Democrats, is what you're saying.
No, they've always been. These guys are lowlifes.
It's been all bullshit every time.
They're lowlifes.
So why are we buying into that, Sam?
No one is buying.
Why do we continue
Because you cannot enable things. Peter, you want to sit there, Peter, you want to sit there and empower these evil people? You can't empower these evil people. You're going to sit there and not participate.
Making an assessment of who's evil and who's not, but they enjoy.
These Republicans are evil. And you're not voting, and you're allowing them to do whatever they want. They will destroy this country. Single-handedly.
Republicans.
Yes.
Not the Democrats. They'll save us. They'll save us all. Hallelujah. White Jesus.
This is good, right? But what I'm saying is this.
At least you might live
That's
to
how it's
80.
done all the time, right? By both parties. And which validates my point that the president is important for that, because if this is how they run the business of selecting the Supreme Court nominee, right? If you have a president, they can't hold it out for 4 years. But if you have a president who is not of that party and they come into office, they have to vote on his person, right? They have to, right? Now, if he's of the same party, so in this case, Trump and McConnell vote on the same person, you're sure who what you're getting.
Okay, I get that, Sam. But even so, let's get
So
No, I get that. Okay, so let's take our RGB. Okay, she was appointed by whom? Does it even?
I don't know. I'm not a historian.
Right. Now, I see on social media that we are giving her huge praise.
Who's we?
A lot of black folks.
Okay.
Right?
Because
Let me make my point. So my point is, when you're talking about us having the right person in place to give us these nominations and ultimately bring us to these justices, right? What has she done for the advancement? We have to stop being okay with people who are indifferent to our plight. What did she do for Black people? My historian panel.
I'm not here. What
has she done?
I'm not here to litigate RGB.
Okay?
No. As Public Enemy says, she wasn't a hero of mine. She was a feminist. She but I don't have her on my wall.
Let me explain why I bring her up. It's because when we bring in those people that we say that are going to appoint these justices, that's who they're going to appoint. People who are indifferent to our plight.
That's not necessarily why you're making gross assumptions. You're making gross assumptions. You are making. Listen, Obama. What's the name of the Latino sister? No, that Obama appointed.
Guys, go take a look at her record on voting rights.
Okay.
So now, whether or not you want to vote rights.
What's the one Obama appointed? The woman, the Spanish
The
lady.
Republicans are consistently attacking the ability of people to vote.
And have abortions and all these normal fucking shit.
Voter suppression?
Absolutely. Go look at her record on voter suppression. Completely anti-voter suppression. So you asked what I'm giving you.
Okay.
All right. So yes, that matters. That figure matters.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
Doesn't matter.
It does.
It hasn't helped
Okay.
us.
And I want to hear what
It hasn't helped us because
let's give
hasn't
you an
helped us.
opportunity to explain what his
I
solution
know
is.
that we can talk all night, but our guests are familiar with us having a 2-hour show. It is now 6:56. My hair is still flowing.
We got 4 minutes left.
We got 4 minutes. I need to hear a solution from each one of you
Boom.
all because I don't have one. I'm just going
Let's, Peter, you go. What's the solution?
Overall solution or short term?
Whatever you want to say. We want to hear your plan.
Long-term solution, there is no advancement until we use the power that we have in our wallets. If we do not use economic warfare to get respect, because they're never going to love us. And as soon as you guys figure that out, the quicker we can get on with the business of being free.
I don't need them level.
Use your money to demand respect in the street. So use our money strategically, guess what? They'll stop killing us on the roadside.
Okay, good point. That's 1 minute. 1 minute for you.
Okay, here you go. Take Peter's point. Hold on to your money and support businesses that will educate your children so that your future as a family, as a community is a better one, right? We need to invest in our children.
Yes.
Right? And not invest in our children in terms of the fucking I don't care. All right, but fine. You know,
I'm blaming
what
it
it is.
is.
You all know I don't curse, right? But you know what? All right, enough with the goddamn sneakers. Enough with the goddamn designer shit that we built. No, that doesn't.
Supreme.
You know, I'm gonna just say one thing. I was talking to my dear friend Crystal this week, and I was telling her my daughter Shola, who is now in grad school, who is addressing who's doing a doctorate in psychology because she wants to go back and talk and help children and people who are looking towards being in part of that pipeline to prison. And she's already been able to impact lives of people that she had to decide, is prison the right thing or is there some other alternative? And she's been able to find that, right?
That's what's up.
We wore sketches till she was like 12.
Right.
So when she went into, which was like middle school, and when she went to middle school, she saw the Nikes rolling out. She's like, "Daddy, all right,
Time to upgrade.
Time to upgrade. I'm not doing this no more, right?" But I'm just saying, when she was 4, I didn't buy her that.
Right.
You buying your child that.
You're creating the expectation.
You buying that for you.
For you,
your
right.
child. Your child doesn't even know what the hell it is.
Right.
You buying that car for you.
Right.
That little car that your little 2-year-old is driving on the street that costs freaking $600, right? You buying that for you. We had mopeds. We had little.
This is set.
Big wheel.
Big wheel. From A&S.
The hands, you know,
Big wheel.
we have bikes.
Right there with the Kung Fu grip.
You know what? Get over that. Right? Your child doesn't need that. Your child needs you to invest in his or her education. Your child needs to say, you know what? The school system is going to give me this, mom and dad. I need you to give me the other pieces that's going to make me successful.
Do we have a link to where people can contribute to Cast Prep? Is there anything there? We need that.
Castprep.org.
Okay.
And we'll update the Facebook post for that. Bob, I need to hear some solutions for you, and then I have some.
Excellent. Solutions from me. I just think we're living in a time now that we can't be so transparent with our motives. We have to have some discussions internally about what our objectives are and utilize every constructive force that can help us achieve our goal, whether they know it or not. I think we're always walking around with our hands open and our plans in the wide open, and everyone knows what we're doing. So it's easy to destroy whatever we want to do. I think we need to develop some sophistication in how we go about planning and shaping our future. So that's the solution. I want us to sit here and actually think about a plan that incorporates their help without them even knowing they're helping, that advances us forward.
Okay. And so for me, I think the solutions that I think we need, I understand the focus on our children because the children protect what's going to happen in the future. But I also think we need to address some of the problems that are repeating within our community of people who are young adults, middle-aged, and our seniors. Because this pandemic, one of the things I see, it's wiping out all the wisdom. So the pandemic is taking out of all the wisdom in our community. And then we're abandoning our adult people who have been incarcerated. I have a lot of friends from all walks of life. And I'm a believer that a lot of criminals repeat their criminal behavior because you lose your civil liberties, you can't get a job, and so if you have a family support, how do you support that family legally? Because you can't get a job.
Criminality is generational.
Right, absolutely.
It is generational.
Just like living in most families who come from these government facilities like the projects and things like that, they're multi-generational. And I've learned personally that even the public system that's designed to help you transition, you're locked in. No one can make a living on $119 a month from public services. And it's almost like you have to have multiple kids to get them more money for the food stamp, to give them more cash into your home. So I think we all have a lot of solutions, and we should take our solutions and put them together to build a plan, maybe go back to the one document that you talked about, but it is now 7:02. And I think we should wrap it up. Thank everyone for being here. And look out for next week. This has been fun. I think we should keep the bubbly flowing.
The bubbly flowing.
I don't know. Me and Peter might kill each other.
So many layers to what he's doing.
Thank y'all. This is so much fun. I appreciate
Oh,
Paparazzi is here. Thanks, guys. Good job.
We're trying. We'll see you next week. By the way, look for our ad in Times Square on Friday.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna Roku. Yeah, we're gonna be on Roku. We're gonna be featured there. You're gonna be able to watch us live on Roku as you are able to watch us on Facebook, YouTube. Listen, look. I always tell people, man, it's not easy. We may have 1 view, 2 view, but you know what? If you don't stick to it, you'll never get 1,000. You'll never get 1,000,000. So it's coming. And we need your support. But we need your support because everyone loves a winner. And latch on to us now. Support us. Follow us. Share it. Talk about us and support. It's a good thing. We're only empowering our people. We're only bringing our people up here to tell you about what they're doing to help our cause. So what we're doing is a good thing, and just understand that we may fight, we may curse and all that, but at the end of the day, it's all for the upliftment of our people. Peace. See you next Thursday, and for my fans, I'll see you on Monday.
That's a whole nother discussion. Thank you and good night. Can you let us know when the mic's out? It's still on?
Thank you, Johnny.
Oh, that was great.
You're supposed to wait to ask if the mics are out because the mic's still picking it up.